So one fantastic feature they've recently added into Shapelab, it's still in beta, but it's going to be added into the 2026 version. So this will only be in, like all the current beta features, it will only be in the 2026 version and beyond. So it's really nice. They only start working on it recently, so there's more features to be added, but the basics of it are in place, and it really adds to the workflow for scene layout and whatnot. So it's accessed here on the top button of the secondary controller. You can see the little icon, and the great thing is it can be invoked in both scene mode and sculpt mode. So you can see here I'm still in sculpt mode, and then we have our 3D Gizmo, and these widgets here. This is the switch between global and local. So rotate it around, switch to global, and it's going to go back to the world XYZ rather than the local. This here is quick access to your pivot, so you can customize the pivot. And as I say, there'd be more features added to this. So for instance, like in ZBrush, where you can click on the surface and the pivot will be aligned to the surface normal. So from the last video when I was showing creating primitives, you can see there where I moved the origin. I've switched it back here to object. So the origin's moving along with the geometry basically. Switch it to origin only, and you can see it sort of gets faded out, just so you know that you're in origin mode, like in ZBrush when you hold down Alt and then you just move the pivot or the origin. I'm calling it the origin, but origin and pivot, they're interchangeable. So say if I move that out there from the last video where I showed we go to scene mode, create, and now if I use selection, you'll see that it's inherited the custom pivot of this other object. So if I go back again, back into flicking down into object mode, into sculpt mode, over the origin, and if you put the origin over here, back into scene mode then again, and create at selection, you'll see there it's have to create it at the origin. So that's just another handy feature that they've added. So to undo that, I'll go back to there. And sorry, I probably didn't even mention this, or maybe briefly, but the secondary thumbstick, left and right, left for undo and right for redo. So very fast to undo and redo just using that thumbstick. So to reset that origin back to the center of your object, you can just come in here, primary thumbstick, click align origin, and then origin, change location of origin to the bounding box, and apply, and it'll reset it back to the center of your object. And that's regardless of whether you're in object origin only or origin and geometry here, because you have it set here to origin. So the Gizmo, of course, is just like a Gizmo in any other 3D program. We have all the usual features and non-uniform scale, of course. And then you have a couple of widgets down here where this is like a screen space move, and this is your uniform scale down here, non-uniform scale. And then the extra couple of features it has built in, you have some quick snapping. So if I rotate here with the primary trigger and primary trigger and primary controller, and then I hold down the side trigger, you can snap here to increments, and you can see here I'm snapping to 45 degrees, and that can be found either in here from the first video that it's set to 45 degrees here, rotation, or here on the quick snap, the quick snapping menu, The mini menu here set to 45, so I can quickly set that to whatever else, and it's rotating now on 30 degrees. And the same thing with translation. So if I start moving, and by the way, you can do this with either side trigger, and then the opposite trigger will be the modifier, or you can do it with primary trigger, and then the opposite trigger will be, when I say the opposite trigger, I mean on the same controller, the primary. You can grab with either one, whichever suits. And also then, if you use the trigger on the secondary controller, you can get more controlled movements. You can see here, it dampens the movement, so it completely slows it down. And that quick snapping, it obviously follows whatever you have set here, but it just means that you don't have to turn these on and off. You can just use it with your modifier key, so very handy. So another nice feature of the Gizmo is the reset. So if you look here on the secondary controller thumbstick, it's just blank. But when I hover anywhere here inside the Gizmo, you can see here you get this icon then, context sensitive. So this means that I can reset the rotation. So if I'm rotating here, I can just hit that button, reset it. Or if I've already rotated it, I can hover back inside and then reset. And that's pretty much doing what's in here in the transform as well. You can see here, if I start rotating, it's rotating on X, and then I can reset it there. So it's just a quick way to do that while you're working without having to go into any menus or anything. And it's the same for I think it works even for, see the reset here. Now this is, by the way, I'm in if I just hit reset, then it'll reset it back to 000 here where I started moving it from. And I'm in sculpt mode here. As I said earlier, you can use the Gizmo in both sculpt mode and scene mode. It works. And you can even do it after the fact. Like if I move this up here, scale that, rotate it, and then I can just hover over, and you can do it, as I said, as well while you're grabbing it. So handy little feature there. So that's pretty much it for the Gizmo. As I said, this is a fairly recently added feature. It's still in beta, but it will be in the 2026 version. But you know, they've built a solid base for the Gizmo, and hopefully they're going to keep adding more features like surface normal snap, or that it will also work with mask, and so some sort of like a ZBrush transpose. But yeah, I'm sure they have a lot planned here. This is just the beginning of it, but it's it really improves, especially the scene layout stuff, and the fact that also we can use it in both modes. And another thing to note I didn't mention is, you can see here when I start grabbing the Gizmo, we have our clone tool, so you can also clone with the Gizmo. Same with rotate and any of the movements there. So yeah, forgot to mention that as well. And there's a feature here as well. If you press the alternate button here, the invert button just above the clone, it's switching here between the dual axis movement. So because I grabbed that here, it's going to switch to the two different axes, either on the plane here, the XY, or across the Z, because I grabbed it here. If I grab it here, same thing, it'll move on X, or it'll move on Z and Y. So that's just an extra little feature as well. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to leave it there for the Gizmo. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video. All right, cheers, thanks, Philip.